Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon. I assume it's afternoon for most of you all out there. I accidentally deleted the image I was using as the background, which is why everything just disappeared for a second. So hope you all are doing well. Definitely an impromptu live stream this morning, or I guess this afternoon technically, because it's noontime now. But I'm sure many of you opened up your Oxygen sites today to see this. Google Maps is broke. It broke. Ah! And basically, that's because there was an API that got deprecated. And apparently, it's been deprecated or, warned to be deprecated for a very long time. But I didn't know about it, and it didn't seem like Element or Oxygen knew about it either. So here we are. So essentially, I'm just going to hang out for a little bit and chit-chat with you guys. And hopefully some more people will join. And then we're going to take a look at a few fixes. I'll show you how to fix it. It's not terribly difficult. But Oxygen already did release a fix for this. So you can go to the website, look for this recent post, and the 3.8 RC2 is essentially just addressing this map issue. And so good morning, good afternoon, everybody. If you're chatting, if you're in chat, drop in where you're from, what's going on, and if this drove you crazy, because I woke up and was like, uh-oh. Simone says, just today my map stopped working. I was going crazy. Yeah, probably lots of people were. I suspect many people didn't realize what was going on, but here we go. Toby, good to see you. Taylor, Zephyr, William. Bill says, short answer, download and update the 3.8 RC2. Indeed. But there's a couple other options because not everybody's going to want to go through the API key mess. You may need to in some cases, but not always. Netherlands, good to have you. Welcome in. We're going to get started here in just a little bit. I've noticed it takes YouTube a little bit of time to push out the notifications, so I typically like to do the little warm-up and just chit-chat a little bit, so hopefully you guys are good to just hang out. David says, hey dude, good morning. Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon to you, wherever you are in the world. I feel like the vast majority of you guys are in Europe. So that's why I try to do the streams earlier. Obviously, today's a little bit later just because of the circumstances, but here we are. Toby says, do you use an extra API key for every client? It's always a mess with the CC with some clients. Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. So we'll look at that. And you have to kind of decide for yourself which way is better. Taylor says use Mapbox or Leaflet and never have to worry about Google shenanigans. Yep, totally. That's definitely a thing. Ireland and Mexico, stoked to see you guys. Bill, I agree. It came out really, really fast. He posted this morning that they were looking into it, and then here we are with it fixed. So definitely do see some people joining. We'll go ahead and get rolling here. Essentially what we have is in Oxygen, of course, you have your Google Map element. And the reason why I loved this so much is because it didn't require the API key. And you could stick your business name in front of the full address and you would get the nice map with the pin, and you would also get your Google business listing with its reviews and directions and all that. So it was super, super handy. And you didn't have to bother with an API key, except in very specific circumstances. But now, of course, that doesn't work. So you would get these error messages like you're seeing. So what we have to do, and the easiest thing, is to just go to this Oxygen post. And there's a link right here. So Elijah was kind enough to pop this in for us. So we basically have to go get an API key. So let's see where this link takes us. It tells you kind of what you have to do. So essentially you have to set up credentials and it generates an API key for you. So I've done this quite a few times personally, but I don't think I have ever done this on stream. Now, before we go down that route, one thing I wanted to mention is as an alternative, granted, you have the option for dynamic data for your address in the map element. If you're like me and you don't really need dynamic data in your maps field that often, one thing you can do is basically just copy exactly what you want. In my case, I'll just use my actual business here. If I click on the map and then you go over here to share, then what you can do is go to embed, and you can just basically take this iframe HTML right here. And what we could do, I'll just leave the Google Map element in place. We will get a code block, go into our PHP here, and then I'm going to change this width to 100%. And then the height, I think, is 350 on that one up above. So we'll do, actually, I'll do wrap here, thanks to the 3.8 code editor. And then what we'll do is change the width of our code block to 100%, and voila. So there is no API key needed for this. I don't have an API key on this site, and there we go. So I would have some margin underneath whatever element is above it, and voila, there is the Google Maps working with just an embed. Question says, is that allowed? I don't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, it's right here. It's provided from Google. So I don't know that there would be any reason for that. I mean, they're giving you an iframe right here. It says embed a map, and it is an iframe. And also, the output of the Google Maps element is an iframe anyway. The other thing is that I do believe this embeds based on the way that you zoom. So like if I zoom out further, I believe it will embed at that zoom level. So then what about in the code? Is there a way to edit that? Let's see. If I click on my code block, go to PHP, maybe somewhere in this crazy embed string, you could adjust it. But I think the easiest thing to do is just to actually go through the embed here like that. So that is one extremely easy way to fix it. Now, this is, of course, very manual. It's not quite as clean, but this shouldn't stop working. It's not reliant on an API key, but you may run into an issue like we're experiencing today where just one day this stops working. So there is something to consider. Elijah says there's a zoom URL parameter, I believe. I don't know if it's in there somewhere and I just don't quite see it, but I think if, like, let's say I zoom way further out, let me go here to embed and just copy, stick this right back in, and then apply. And yeah, so there it is, all the way zoomed out. You can use pretty embeds, which allows you to set the zoom level in the URL. Yeah, definitely, Taylor. That's another good option. I'm preferential, which I'm sure you can do in other map plugins, but I'm partial to this because it has the Google Maps, like the business in here. And that's exactly what I want for the vast majority of my clients, is for their Google Maps listing to pop up for directions and to see their reviews. John says, is the embed performance better or worse than adding through the Oxygen element? I don't believe so, because they both end up resulting in an iframe on the front end. So this is going to give you an iframe, and this is just the code embedded for that same iframe. So if it does make a difference, it's going to be extremely marginal, I do believe. So when would you want to get that API key? So first of all, let's go back over here. We would just go to this button right here. It says credentials page. And what you're going to want to do is just make sure you have this. You're going to have to start a project if you don't already have one. As you can see, I have quite a few. So I'll just choose one that already exists. And what we're going to do is click on create credential. A bunch of different options here. You would just choose API key. And it's going to give you this API key, which of course you typically don't want to share with anybody. I'm never going to use this, so I'll just delete it in a little bit. But you're going to want to restrict this so people can't use it. You just essentially go to HTTP refers, name it, of course. We're going to call this live stream key. So yes, HTTP refers. You're going to want to go to website restrictions and click on add. And then the refer is going to be your website that you want it to work on. So basically, this wildcard will be any www or not, and then also https.yourwebsite.com/* for the other wildcard. So essentially, it would be something like this. In my case, because I have a subdomain, I am going to do it like this. So I'm just going to take the HTTP out, inventive. Typically, though, if your website is just like WP Sandbox Pro, then you would put the asterisk, then a dot. So it's going to work like that for me. So click on done. And then under API restrictions, it's up to you if you change this option. This will mean that the key can only call specific Google APIs. I typically just leave it as don't restrict. I click on save, and then we're going to copy that here in just a second. So my live stream key is this one right here. I can just click on copy API key. And then what we want to do is in Oxygen, we're going to go over here to our settings. And you've probably seen me in other streams use this Google Maps API key field before, but it's typically for stuff like ACF Google Maps fields, and then also for like the WP Grid Builder map. it also requires an API key. So we would just paste that in there, save that bad boy. And then on the front end, I don't know if I have to do anything special because this didn't work earlier in my testing, but if I save this, we now should have 2 working maps on the front end. And we do not. So what did I do wrong? Do I have to, oh, I have the old version of Oxygen, I forgot. So what we gotta do is let's get rid of this. We are going to deactivate our beta 1 install. We are going to upload our RC2 right here. And then now we should actually have a working map on the front end. So let's take a look here once this actually finishes uploading and we activate it. And then now we should have 2 working maps on the front end. There we go. So this is the issue that I ran into earlier. So I still had the exact same address in there, but as you can see, it doesn't actually pinpoint my map like it should be down here. And it also doesn't put the Google Maps, you know, the GMB listing in the map for me. So let's go back over to our homepage, and actually I can just edit this straight with Oxygen. Toby says, did someone ever reach the free limit and had to pay? I never have, but I also have never really done this route, so I don't know what it's going to take to reach that limit. So it remains to be seen. That's the other consideration, is that it is free up to a point, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what that threshold is, but that's something to consider. And then there was something else I was going to mention along these lines. I can't remember. Hopefully I'll come up with something here in a little bit. But basically, see, this address here has the full thing. So if I take it out and pop it back in, then I don't think this is going to work. I think I have to play with the address a little bit. Yeah, so if I take out the business name, then it does work. But I want the GMB listing to pop up. So what do I need to do? Elijah said something in his Facebook post about needing to take out the, was it city and state? Yeah, interesting. So you just need basically the street address and then your postcode. So that's so weird. So weird. I don't understand why that would be. Maybe there's too many commas in that address or something. But anyway, you have those 2 different options. You know, get your API key, and in my opinion, that's really only going to matter if you're going to use an ACF Map Field or something like a plugin that requires it. Of course, what you're looking at down here on the bottom is the actual embed iframe straight from Google. So you would just Google whatever your business name is or whatever you want to pop up, and then you can just embed that straight into Oxygen. So the other thing I was curious about is an ACF Map Field and how that plays into it. So let's take a quick look at that. We're going to go create a new field group, and we'll just call this map test. And I have no idea what the result of this will be, but I do want to check it out. I think we're going to have to use PHP, which I don't think works in that address field. So we'll take a look at that and see. So our field type is going to be, where is it? Google Map. And then that's really all we need for this point. I'm going to stick this above our page content. And I set it to apply to all of our pages, which is probably not something that you would typically do. Maybe you would do it on a specific page, like, you know, page is equal to home, for instance. So we'll go ahead and publish that. And then I need to get out of Oxygen so we can actually edit the post on the back end. So this works right here because we stuck that API key in Oxygen settings. So now we would just search for an address. Let's do exactly what I've been doing. 34990 Emerald Coast Parkway. And it won't let me click on that for some reason. That's kind of annoying. Is it because my... Oh, there's an error message. This page can't load Google Maps correctly. Why not? Interesting. That's weird. Oh, maybe all I needed to do is refresh. I don't think it pulls up your Google business listing. I can put it like that, but I don't think it actually pops up. So we'll update this. And then let's go quickly jump into Oxygen. And let's see what we got. ACF requires its own Google Maps API key that you have to add via a code snippet. It seems like it started working. That's how I've done it in the past, was through Oxygen settings. All right. So let's add, we're just going to do an entirely new section so we can kind of check this out. So we'll call this one, oops, not that, ACF Map. We'll go with 40 pixels of margin. Let's do a map, I guess it's Google Map. And let's see what happens if we use the dynamic data to insert that ACF field for address. We're going to change this height to 350 pixels, and then let's set the map width to 100. So then I'm going to close out some of these tabs and clean this up. Let's look on the front end and see if there's anything here for us. Rejected your request, invalid queue parameter. I think it's because ACF Map Field returns coordinates and not the actual address. So Elijah, can I stick PHP in this address field? I don't think you can. I've tried that before, but I don't think it works. Because like I said, it's returning coordinates, and I don't think there's a way to change how that behaves. And that's why you have to use a Google Map Field with something like WP Grid Builder, because it wants coordinates, and that's what the map field returns. So you can go to dynamic data PHP function return value. Oh. So like this, and then let's see, PHP map field address for ACF. Let's see, I've seen it before, and it's really small. That's not what I want. There is somewhere in here, like a really basic line. There it is, probably. Yep, it's this right here. So is the function name get field, and then you just stick the field name in the function arguments? Get field like that. And then what did I call it? Address, I believe. I don't know that this is going to work. I'm just trying this. I want to see. And if we refresh our sandbox, it's not unhappy now, but it doesn't seem like it returned exactly what we needed. That'll still return the chords probably. Yeah, okay, gotcha. So where did that go? Echo map location address. So this I know works, because if we stick that in a code block, we can see it work. Because all you have to do, oops, actually I just need to place it in here. And then all you have to do is change this to address. And there it goes. It spits out the actual address. So I don't know, based on that PHP function return value, if there's a way to pull what we're after out, but I am honestly not sure. You probably need to create a function in code snippets with that code and return the, oh, okay. So is that what you're talking about, Taylor? You said use my code snippet? That must be what you're referring to. So my point in demonstrating this was this really doesn't have any impact on the ACF side of things, because this is how it behaved before. You just have the added variable, and you just have to stick the API key in there now, essentially, of course. But these other two options are really great. However, if we could get this to work, that would be sweet. Elijah says, make a function like. Oh, he says, I can't write PHP here. Understandable. Like I said, it's not that big of a deal, because this is how it worked before anyway. And I'm trying to think if I ever ran into an issue where that actually made any difference. I guess it does in a small way, because if you want it to pull into the oxygen map element, then you do have to have a second address line, which is kind of annoying, to just paste the plain address into. But maybe there's a way to do it with the function. Next Best Thing says, thanks for the quick release, Elijah. Yeah, thank you very much. Super awesome. Very nice and easy. And you're welcome. He says, thanks for your help. You're super welcome. Let's see. Let's see. Elijah is suggesting a code snippet. You can use ACF text field. Yeah, but Taylor, what I was saying is that you then have to have two different fields. You have to have the ACF text field and the map field, which, I mean, it's really, it's not that big of a deal because essentially you're just copying I have so many tabs open. Essentially you're just copying straight out of one into the other. Like if you had a second address field that was just text instead of the map, you could just simply copy it straight over, but it's not quite what we're after. Let's see. And Elijah, that would be a function in code snippets, then in Oxygen. Okay, so Elijah is suggesting a solution here. So what we're gonna do is go add code snippets. Then we're going to stick in this function that he just wrote on the fly for us, which is pretty awesome. We're going to try and see if this works. So we'll just say get clean ACF map address as our name. We're going to paste in this function, and I'll leave this up for a second. So if you're watching later, you can pause this and get this right out, and I'll copy it in the description. We are going to save this so it runs everywhere. Let's see. He is suggesting a slight change. Yeah, I see there's an issue with that code. So we basically just needed to add the little $sign right there. And so we'll save that. One slight little change. And then we're going to come back over here to Oxygen. We need to refresh this guy real quick. Hopefully I save some of these changes so I don't have to do this stuff again. I don't remember the last time I saved, so we'll see what happens here. All right. So then he said, do PHP function return value, get raw field, and the name of the field as the parameter. So address is our field name. Sweet, that works. That's so handy because that eliminates the need to have those two fields like I mentioned earlier. So thank you so much, Elijah. Super, super awesome. So to recap what we have going on here, this is just the Oxygen map element with the address typed straight into it. This one is the embed straight from Google. And then this one is actually an ACF map field. And with that function that we just added, that code snippet, we were able to pull the address straight out of it. So you essentially kill two birds with one stone. So that's super, super awesome. That is super handy. Thank you very much. So that's actually a problem I've run into before and just didn't really have the presence of mind to deal with it at the time. I just made a second field, but that's very, very handy. So for those of you guys that watch this in the replay, thank Elijah for that. And if you're watching live, thank Elijah for that. I'm going to definitely be using that in the future. So thank you for that. If you're watching and you haven't liked the stream, please do so. It really does help. Hopefully people will pick up on this. But that's basically all I had. So there is not a whole lot else to cover on this particular topic. Next Best Thing says, would there be any difference in page load speed using any of these methods, or are they pretty synonymous? They're nearly all identical. They all really end up in the exact same format in terms of front end, output and performance. So it's entirely dependent on what makes the most sense for your specific website. This top one, I would probably go with just typing it in on a typical site. This bottom one in iframe would be maybe if for whatever reason the top option didn't work for you. And then this ACF map field, I'd probably be using on a directory site or somewhere where I have a bunch of address fields across the site and I don't want to input every single one manually. That's definitely what I would do. ACF text and code block embed doesn't need an API key. True, Taylor, yeah. So the embed doesn't need an API key. So that is definitely a good point to consider. Elijah says they're probably identical. If you don't want to drag things down with an embed, just screenshot the map and add a Google Maps link to click through. Yeah, that's another option. It definitely has an impact on your, performance metrics and things like GT metrics and that kind of thing. So it really just depends on what makes the most sense for you. Although if I'm not mistaken, I think there's technically something terms of service wise where you're not supposed to do that with the maps screenshot, but whatever, it's not that big of a deal. Bill says, great content, Jonathan. Thanks for everything you do. You're so welcome. Thank you for your thanks. I appreciate that. Any other thoughts today? Because that's about all I had. So this one's going to be a pretty quick stream today. What are we at? Like 20 something minutes, I think. Yeah, 27. Pretty good. Yeah, that very, very neat, John. I completely concur. Thank you, Elijah, for jumping on that so fast and for being in chat, creating another solution for us on the fly. So I appreciate that. So anyway, I'm going to change this right here to Google Maps is fixed. Save. And let's take a look. Yay, it's fixed. Woohoo! Curious if you guys have any ideas on what you'd like to see for the next stream. A couple of things I've been thinking about are rebuilding an existing site. If you have one in mind that you'd like to see me rebuild, definitely let me know. I am happy to take suggestions. The other thing is I was thinking about doing that Printful drop shipping WooCommerce store that I mentioned, and it would be like a permaslug merch store. Not sure I'll actually take the store live in terms of like, real customers, but it's definitely something I've considered. So there's that option. And then there was another thing. I can't remember. I had a third idea, but I don't recall what it was. So if you have an idea for a stream, let me know. We've talked about like a design challenge thing, but I don't know exactly how we'll pull that off. Not exactly sure. Bushcrafting says, I did for myself a fun copy of a Veda demo site, something like that. Yeah, that's an option. I did that one time with an Elementor site. So definitely an option. Oh, no worries, John. People mess my name up all the time. It's all good. Any other suggestions for next stream? I don't know when I'll do it. I actually was thinking of doing something today, and then this came out, so I'm happy for that. It would be probably, or I was thinking of something tomorrow, but then this came out today. Don't know what else would be there. So yeah, maybe if you think of something, hit me up on Facebook or send me an email, and we'll go from there. Tobias says uses for custom post types. Yep. Definitely. I saw Digital Ambition / Kevin posted a video on that today, custom post types. So maybe check that out. Yeah. So anyway, as always, thank you to every single one of you that's here supporting, watching the stream. Before we leave, drop a like on the stream. I sincerely appreciate it. But that is all I'm going to cover for today. So thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.